Are we live already?
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Okay. We are around 53, 54, it's increasing. Carry on.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the PMI UAE chapters webinar for tonight. We will give a few more minutes for the others to join us. And for the meantime, please do let us know where you are joining from so we can welcome you all. Thank you. Amir, it looks like the attendees cannot message to everyone. Amir, please enable the chat.
Okay, doing.
Yes, it's enabled now. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again. We have a lot of attendees from Dubai, Doctor. Yes, thank you, Mr. Atif. We have attendee from Pennsylvania.
Oh,
And Abu
US.
Dhabi attendee. Saudi, we have attendee from Saudi. Anjana, good evening. Hi. Anna is there. Canada. Oh, Canada, yes. And we have a lot of attendees from our chapter, of course. Welcome and thank you for attending. Okay, I think we have given enough time. And so, Professor Alex, are you ready to start?
Yes.
May I kick off the webinar now? Okay, good
Yes.
morning and good evening to all of you who are here right now. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the PMI UAE chapters webinar entitled AI and the Future of Digital Forensics. This will be delivered by our esteemed speaker, Dr. Alex Akpodiete. My name is Irene Corpus, and I will be your moderator for tonight. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to introduce a little flow of our webinar. First, I will give a brief introduction about our PMI UAE chapter, which is especially important for the first-time attendees. Then after, I will hand you over to Dr. Alex. Following his presentation, which will run for about 45 minutes, we will have a short time for the Q&A, where Dr. Alex and I will do our best to accommodate all the questions within the time frame. We encourage you to post your thoughts in the chat and interact with us to make the webinar a conversational and engaging one. In regard to your questions, please post them at the Q&A. I will also give a heads up to you, Dr. Alex, as to how many questions we are receiving so you can manage the time as well. And for those who will not be able to answer the question, we apologize for that. We will be finishing at 8:15. Now we go to the PMI UAE chapter presentation. If you will allow me, I will share my screen right now. Okay. Oh, I think I'm not sharing the right screen. So apologies for the delay. Okay. This happens, some technical. Okay, so the PMI UAE chapter, PMI UAE chapter in Project Management Institute UAE chapter PMI has been founded in 1969 by a group of working project managers. And after 50 years, PMI is still the source of all the things about project management. For PMI UAE chapter, the vision is about empowering and influencing individuals with the innovative project economy principles to turn ideas into reality. The UAE chapter, PMI UAE chapter's mission is to disrupt and create value driven to our chapter members and partners to become agile, innovative, productive in the platform for the growth of the project economy. The PMI chapter is run by the 100% attendees, and most of the participants in this webinar right now, we believe, are coming from our PMI UAE chapter. And our chapter is actually top 5 in the PMI EMEA region. We are dependent on you, our volunteers, to make our chapter activities as interactive and as invigorating as possible. So for also those who wanted to participate and join as volunteer, please do approach us. These are our new set of board of directors. Our President, Mr. Adil Sultan, is here in the middle, and the rest of the board of directors are also in here. For PMI membership and benefits, as members, you will have access to the PMI library, the PMBOK guide, exclusive membership, exclusive member access to events that are hosted by the PMI chapter, some discounts up to 30% for certification, unlimited access to the PMI standards at the PMI Peaks and Career Navigator, community access, and tools and templates and publications and reports. And here are also some of the benefits of being PMI members. This event itself and even the face-to-face, we do a lot of networking, we do a lot of learning and knowledge sharing, career growth, and of course, this part is the webinar is one of those diversified webinars that we conduct, and it is not only limited to project management, but anything involving personality development, leadership, and even technology. We have our silver sponsors here, Dubai Properties and Miraz, and we have a whole good number of partners as well. For this webinar, you will receive 2 strategic PDUs. You don't need to apply for this. Our membership team will automatically submit your application being attending this webinar, and it will automatically be updated and added to your PDUs. If you do not receive them in the 4 weeks, please do send an email to info@pmiuae.org. Please, if you haven't done so, follow us on our social media channels. We have LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So before I hand you over to Dr. Alex, let me introduce to you. Dr. Alex is the CEO and Senior Cybersecurity Analyst and Researcher at Ottawa Technologies, LLC. He specializes in end-user education, data protection, cybersecurity, ethical hacking, and AI. Professor Akpodiete holds a JD in Law, an MBA, a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, and an AAS in Cybersecurity. He is pursuing a PhD in Cybersecurity Leadership and has industry certifications such as AWS Cloud Practitioner, PMP, and CISM. He is an adjunct professor of cybersecurity, founder and chief instructor at Ottawa Training Institute, and consults in the Middle East. With a background in law, academia, and technology, he has extensive experience and expertise in the field. That's why he's talking about digital forensics tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, please, let's all welcome our speaker, Dr. Alex. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you very much. So let me start by sharing my screen. I know we got 45 minutes for this presentation, right? I hopefully have enough time for questions and answer. I'm going to use a PowerPoint slide deck here. So I hope you can see my slide deck. So when we think about digital forensics and AI, I like to always tell people that forensics is not what you see in the movies. In the movies, you get a case and in 1 hour you solve it, you find out who committed the crime and who did the thing. Forensics is a little more painstaking, and in actuality, it's tied to cybersecurity. So I'm using some, you get the slide deck, I believe, from a PMI. So there's some pictures that are used in here with some copyrights. So I really want to make sure that at the end of this presentation, there are 6 things that at least I can cover. I'll just give a little overview of artificial intelligence. My job here is not to give you a 1-hour presentation on AI, because you had a presentation last month on AI. So yeah, also I want to identify what forensics are, the definition of digital forensics. I need to also look at the steps in forensics process. And let's see how this relates to our project management process, right? And then finally, if you look at the practical applications of AI in forensics, how we apply AI in digital forensics. And then I want at the end for you to really understand the impact of AI on the future of digital forensics, or to put it better way, how will AI impact how we do forensics investigation or analysis in the future, right? So essentially, what we call the really nutshell definition of forensics is getting computing devices to do what humans will normally do, right? So try to get them to do our own job, however realistic that might be. That's AI in a nutshell. It has different aspects of AI. It's good to understand that AI has been with us for a long time. Just recently, it seems to be like a buzzword with a lot of both fear-mongering, misunderstanding of what the technology can do for the average person or the businesses or the government. We are all here in UAE, and we're happy that the government even has a special parastater that is dealing with the AI, both in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi. I think Sharjah might be doing something like that, right? So basically, these are some things that you can see when you talk about AI. You see predictive analysis, deep learning. So the predictive analysis, I'm going to talk about it in a minute here, but you also see speech to text, image recognition, machine vision, planning optimization, which we relate to also, and an expert system to enable us to make decisions, right? And then again, you see data extraction, translation, and classification for us. So for the past, I guess since 2015, I've been using this book that has been remodeled by Dr. Darren Webb. And basically, what do we think about forensics? the full definition of forensics is really the retrieval or the analysis or use of digital evidence in both, whether it be civil or criminal case, right? But it has a scientific process that we must do. And you hear the word forensically sound. So for us, we say forensically sound, it should mean a process that is repeatable. So if I do a forensics analysis and you do a forensic analysis, we should basically, hopefully come up with the same result. And it's a scientific process, not just like an art form. There are steps that we must follow to get the evidence, right? But another thing is that everyone who has contact with an evidence that we need to examine must fill out a document we call chain of custody. This is very important in court, because if I take a laptop from my ring to analyze forensically, I need to show that when I come to court, it went from my ring to me and then to the courthouse. Otherwise, the other side will say, hey, that's not the evidence, or that's not the laptop, so you got it from somewhere else. So it is a rigorous process, and it is a painstaking process. For the criminal aspect, Interpol looks at it as it's a branch of the forensic science. So when you have a gun that is fired or somebody dies, there's a forensics process, right? It is similar with the digital forensics, because we need to identify, acquire, analyze, and report on the data that we obtained electronically. So also part of e-discovery. So when I use the word digital forensics, I also mean the same thing as computer forensics, mobile forensics, cyber forensics. In the university I teach in the US, the course that I teach in the spring is called cyber forensics, because they want to extend it to cover things in the cyberspace. But in general, the old word was computer forensics, because we're doing forensics examinations of desktop or laptops. But now it's a little more. We do also forensics of mobile devices. Right? So, as I said, it is a scientific process, meaning that there are steps involved in it. Usually there are 5 steps. You might see some people like NIST might tell you there might be 4 steps, but it breaks down to 5 actual steps. So in the first step is identification. So I want to know which maybe device was involved, and that I'm going to investigate, and maybe what resources that I need to investigate. And I can also need to preserve the evidence or the data, right? Maybe I isolate it or secure it or preserve it. I'll touch on this a little more. But in the case of like, if there was a cyber attack or a breach, and I come in somewhere and I see that a laptop has been infected, I need to make a decision, what am I going to do? Because whatever I do might affect the next step of the analysis. If the computer is running, maybe I need to acquire what is called a volatile memory, RAM. So I need to do a live forensics, because if I shut down the computer, I'm going to lose everything in the random access memory. But if I'm just interested in what's on the hard drive, that's okay. I can do what's called a dead box forensic. I can shut down the computer and then move on there. But it depends on what I'm trying to do. Of course, if I'm in a business setting, I need to balance protecting my client with my desire to do a forensics analysis, right? Because maybe if I leave that computer on, the infection might spread to other devices on the network, right? So the analysis in there, I'm going to look at my tools, and I'm going to look at what I can see from the data on that device. So whether I'm looking at a desktop or a mobile phone, how am I going to analyze it to decide something, right? And of course, the 4th step is documentation. I need to write a report of what I discovered, right? I need to put something together. Either I'm going to do something to present in court, do a graphical analysis, and then of course the presentation, which is I'm summarizing it and I'm going to put it in there. So each of these, you can see, maybe I'm going to tell you where AI has more use. For me, generally, AI will have more use when I'm trying to do analysis. I will show you it toward the end, and then of course writing the report, documentation report, right? So for a forensics, these are some of the tools that we use today, and I'll show you how AI is affecting the tools and the other tools in there. So when I present a tool, I am not endorsing the tool. I'm just using this for educational purposes. One tool that is missing here is what's called Celebrite. It's one of the #1 tools for mobile forensics, but in some parts of the world, they have an issue with it, right? So the Sleuth Kit is a company that has one called Autopsy. We use Autopsy a lot for, especially mobile forensics. I find that autopsy a little easier to use for certain analysis. And then you've got the OS forensics, you got hex editor, you got bulk extractor, and then you have FTK imager, which maybe I'll answer some questions about it later on. The FTK imager, the number one, is free tools, so we call it open source tools. And then autopsy is also an open source tool. So let's see the 5 steps of project management, and then you see the also the 5 steps of forensics. So if you remember, this is a PMI guys, right? So initially, I have the initiating stage. I got my planning stage. I've got my executing stage. I got my monitoring and control, and I've got my closure, right? It's similar. Any forensic investigation is a project. You've got a time constraint, the 3 constraints of project management, which is your time, your scope, and your cost, right? So you have a cost. Example would be, I recently finished a case and I told the client, hey, it's $300 an hour. We're going to do this job in 20 hours. So if it was in the year, $6,000, right? And the client says, I want a result in 1 week. So, okay, that's my, and the scope is, I want you to look at my Android device and I want you to tell me on this Android device if the former employee did something inappropriately. Or it could be the FBI or the Dubai police says, we just arrested somebody, take their phone, want to see if they really use this mobile phone for a crime. So they retain you to do this stuff, right? So you got the initial portion, you have the scope document, you plan how you're going to do it, you now execute the project, obviously, you're monitoring and controlling it, and then the closure, right? So similar here, I got my initial stage, I'm identifying what was used in the project, right? And I'm going to now come, okay, I want to preserve that evidence so it doesn't get spoiled. In the case of mobile devices, you hear guys talk about what's called Faraday bag or cage. So if I take a mobile device from you, I'm going to put it in a cage or a bag that will prevent somebody from sending signals to like what's called remote wipe the mobile device because they use it for commission of a crime, right? And then, of course, eventually I'm going to have to analyze it. That's the main part of the forensic stuff. I want to analyze and see what happened here. Then document my findings, and then I can now do a presentation, right? So, before I get to selling how AI is going to help us in forensics, AI has also created a lot of issues for us in forensics. So, normally, if you give me a picture, I should be able to do what's called photo forensics. I will look at that picture and it will give me what's called EXIF data, EXIF, right? So I should be able to tell what camera was used to take that picture, the location it was used to take, that the picture was taken in, right? And I should be able to at least, of course, know the date and the time the picture was taken. And hopefully I can use like that picture and use it to say, okay, this is where this person was at this time. But with the advent of AI, there's a lot of tools now that allows us to create fake pictures. Or I can take a picture, I'm here now, and you can transport me and it will look like I am currently in Washington, D.C. You can even have me at the White House, right? And they have a lot, so you hear the word deep fake. I think Dr. Vargas talked about it a little last time, right? So you can also have AI generated video. Normally with a video, you would tell also where that video was taken. So now AI is also making it harder for us to analyze and say, this video really happened. And this is not just what you see in the movies. You will see people having videos that look like they're doing something that they're not doing. But there are also now advanced tools that enables me to be able to extract and see the original video and see if something was embedded or somebody was inserted in it. Now, I put on here Elon Musk. So, recently he was sued for an accident that happened with a Tesla car. And part of the evidence that was provided in court was his testimony or his speech touting how great the Tesla vehicle was. Now, coincidentally, his lawyer went to argue in court that, no, that's a deep fake, that he didn't really say that, and talk about how AI can make somebody say something or make it look like somebody said something they didn't say or create a video. Of course, the courts are frowning on that because, you can also track what people say through other technology, right? And AI generated music. If I'm having a lawsuit about what's called intellectual property, whether it be copyright, trademark, or patent, the music that was generated with AI, did I make that music, or what did AI use to make that music? And then a big thing now is AI generated voice or audio. We got a lot of software like Overdub. I can sit down here and mention a lot of software that you can use in this that would mimic the voice. So I can actually sound like Bavin, you know, so you can train the system to make a phone call. A very recent case in the US is somebody calls to pretend to be a grandchild to the grandparents and to say, hey, I'm in jail, I need money for bail. Or you hear the scam that says, I'm in Germany, I don't have access to my phone or something, can you please send me money via Western Union? Or you will say something like, oh, and I've lost my ID, can you please send it to the name of my friend, which would be part of the person that is trying to scam you anyway. But believe me, they are very realistic sounding AI generated voice that mimics your actual voice, right? And then of course, with ChatGPT and other competition, you have AI generated articles or story. So if I have an article that is published and I use AI to generate it and I want to file a lawsuit for maybe a slander or defamation, what do I, suppose I say, oh, it was AI that created the story and then pushed it out to social media. The damage has been done already, so I need to now try and track the trajectory or the pathway of that story. Right? And then for us in academia also, we have a lot of students that are submitting papers. So we're having issues trying to decide which article is plagiarized. So normally we use a tool like Turnitin to try and see the level of plagiarism, but the AI tools are getting so sophisticated, it's becoming very difficult to detect. Next week, we have a class as professors to learn how to even use AI to detect AI written papers by students for plagiarism, right? And then AI generated files. So if I'm trying to analyze your laptop to look for what I call artifacts, or if it was a cyber event, what's called like IOC, indicators of compromise. Suppose AI generated that, generated a picture and put it in there, or generated malware, because AI actually can write a code for you now, by the way. So you can actually tell AI to write a code. You can write a Python code better than most of us can write. And then you put it in the person's system, or you have a way of trying to track it with people, right? And of course, you see AI generated charts. I can generate a fake chart. It would look like you were communicating with somebody who maybe wanted or has done a crime to try and charge you with being a co-conspirator, or that you stole a file. So if I'm trying to see that, okay, maybe somebody gave a file to a competitor and I want to relate it to you as the former employee, why can I plant those files in there? Or why can I plant that chart? So those are some forensic issues that AI has created for us, right? And we know the way AI works generally is I give it data, right, to teach it something. So of course, we know the issues about the bias in AI data. That's why, the question is, how do we train them properly? So those are other issues besides the ethics in here, right? Right. So now I want to talk about how we can apply AI in digital forensics today. I showed you some tools. Let me back up a minute in here. The tools that I can use to analyze a file, right? So I use FTP a lot and autopsy. So look here now. Suppose there was a malware, which just means a malicious software, a virus on the system. AI is able to enable us today to do a better job at malware detection. Because normally, if I have an antivirus, it might use what's called maybe a heuristic or a signature to detect malware on my computer, right? But it's limited. Me as a human, I'm limited. With AI now, we can correlate data from a lot of different sources to better tell if there's a malware, right? So if I'm looking at your computer, AI could say, okay, this file looks like a malware based on analysis of thousands or millions of data, better than I can normally do, right? And of course, image and video analysis. I've already told you that AI is enabling people to create fake videos and fake pictures, right? But a lot of the forensic tools now adding AI capability. So when I see a picture, as an example, if I'm looking at your computer and I see an image on your computer. So if I'm using autopsy, when I go to the image, maybe I should be able to see versions of the image. And if it was deleted, I should be able to go to what's called the unallocated space to find deleted images, right? But I should be able to see when this document or this picture was first created, when it was created, was it merged? And we have the ability to do analysis to say, okay, this is not the original picture. It has been altered in some form, right? And then when I take a mobile device, if I take an Android device, so normally if I take an Android device to analyze it, you can do different types of images of the Android device. So you do what's called, like you say, you root the Android device, right? So that I can, so you normally go to the settings, this process that we go through, so I can be able to try and do a physical analysis of the Android device. So when I do that, I should be able to even see deleted text messages, right? So with AI now, I have the capability to do more analysis and look at text messages and relate it. So if the whole job is to decide if my client was communicating with an adversary in China or say Ukraine, and I'm looking at the text, right? Maybe he has another phone, right? And I have another phone, or I've been able to seize phones of other alleged co-conspirator. I want to be able to analyze the text message to see their communication. Or in the case of WhatsApp, we all believe that WhatsApp has end-to-end encryption. So let's just leave it at that. So generally, I see when somebody comes online or their status, I'm trying to relate it to maybe 7 other people around the world to see when they came online to see if they had communication, right? So I can use AI to do this thing more in volume. And of course, with the natural language processing techniques, it helps make it easier for me to do this kind of text analysis. The other thing that AI helps us do is this, network traffic analysis. So what this means is this. When I'm looking at your computer, I want to see, did you send a message to another computer in Yugoslavia, as an example, or let's say Croatia, right? To communicate on the internet, you need an IP address, and you need a MAC address, right? So usually, you have an IP address, like we're talking about, it's called IP version 4. You have, like, say, maybe 10.0.20.33. And you use it to communicate with somebody else, right? So the IP address that I just gave you would be what's called a 32-bit IP address. But you need a MAC address. So sorry, the IP address will be considered a logical address. Your own MAC address on your laptop, your own device, is a physical address, which will be 48 hexadecimal bits. So I will see. So if I want to analyze traffic on your computer to somewhere else, I can either analyze it live. I can use certain tools, which are having AI build capabilities in there now. So one tool that we would normally use is maybe Wireshark. So let's say I've investigated and I've captured network traffic. I want to see what you're doing on there. So I should be able to look at your communication and to see what was happening, right? So I'm trying to find an indication that you did something appropriate. But maybe I don't want to see if you did something inappropriate. I want to look at the health of my network. Or I want to see, why is my staff communicating with somebody in Ukraine at 2 a.m. Gulf Standard Time? Or I want to see all of the network communication. So if I'm in a large corporation or the government of UAE, AI is going to help me to ingest and analyze a larger volume of network traffic than I can do as a human being. For me, I will sit down, I will look, if I capture your network traffic, I will look at what's called like a pickup file. I'm looking at it on Wireshark. I have a limited amount of time. So maybe by the time I finish the analysis, something bad has already happened. So I'm going slowly and I'm looking at it. But AI enables me to look at large volumes of network traffic. So if my system was sending information if I want to see if, say, all of the systems in UAE was compromised and they're sending information to another IP address, and I use what's called an SIEM, right? Security Information Event Management, to look at what's happening. I have a limited amount of capacity to do that. But with AI, I can look at all of this volume and I say, hey, they are sending something to 11.22.3.4. I've got 1,000 computers in the Ministry of Information sending that. That clearly means for me that that IP address is probably what's called a command and control that they're sending information to. That tells me there's something maybe funny going on, right? Which will now help me to do expert system analysis, like predictive analysis. I should be able to predict what is going to happen, right? And of course, data recovery and reconstruction is another thing that AI will enable us to do to speed it up. And then again, investigative decision support. If I'm looking at cameras all of over UAE, and I'm looking at the traffic, and I'm seeing what is happening at this time. I mean, I follow somebody from the airport, I follow somebody else from Abu Dhabi, and I'm looking at what is happening. I might be like, okay, there's something they're trying to do that is inappropriate, right? And again, behavior analysis, right? All right. So all this I'm telling you that AI can help me to be more effective and efficient in my investigation, but it cannot replace human beings because there's only so much limits. So when I say some tools in here now, so when I carve out something here from FTK, as a person, I should be able to look and say, okay, even though this guy deleted this file, I'm looking at the unallocated space. It doesn't mean something inappropriate happened, right? Or even though he communicated with this other person via SMS, right? Or if I'm looking at the email, I'm looking at the Microsoft Outlook email, which is, I'm looking for what's going to call the PST file, and he sent one to Irene, right? Or he sent it to him several times and sent file. Doesn't mean something inappropriate. I looked at a client situation and I noticed somebody kept deleting the client's license. I'm like, why is he deleting the client license? And I discovered what happened was they had several copies of the client's license in their system. Maybe as they're going progressively, now I don't need it. So they kept deleting it. I don't think they're doing something inappropriate, but AI might give what's called a false positive and say, hey, this person is doing this. That means something inappropriate happened, right? But it's not necessarily true. So you still need the human being to look at those things and decide. So like with the photo, for example, where AI could create a deepfake photo and try and analyze people's emotion, it cannot substitute to what human being can do. So just because I see certain people doing certain things does not mean that I can reach a conclusion. So a human being, especially with cultural awareness or cultural differences, human beings must be able to sit down there and make a proper analysis of that, right? So I'm going to stop and see if I can take some questions and cover all that point. And I also have something interesting coming up for you guys. All right, Irene, I'm at the 40-minute mark. Can I do some questions and then go to the more complicated stuff? Is that all right?
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. That is a very informative session. Thank you for limiting the slides, but putting a lot of information as you go through it.
Yes.
Before I read on the other questions, please allow me to throw my questions first because I'm taking advantage of being a moderator here, Doctor.
Yes, no problem. Let me stop sharing my.
Yeah. Let me wear my ethical hacker now. Ethical hacker hat. You know, I have that background as well.
Yes.
When we do, let's say VAPT or ethical hacking.
Yes.
We do reconnaissance. We do scanning.
Yes.
I'll gain access.
Yes.
I'll maintain my access silently once I see the vulnerability, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you mentioned about the tools that can be converted into AI, such as network traffic analysis, behavior analysis, malware detection. You are on the other side of the fence of the AI, and I'm on the other side of the fence of AI, where I know you are using AI to be sure that you detect me, to make sure that you are analyzing the traffic that I'm creating, you know, the spikes that I'm creating if I'm doing the scanning. You
Yes.
analyze the behavior of me while I'm there on the stage. How do you do this in forensics? You know, the last stage in ethical hacking is we cover the tracks, you know. I'll
Yes.
cover any fingerprints. I'm not gonna leave any fingerprints. How do you do this in digital forensics to make sure
Okay.
that even covering my tracks is seen by the AI?
Okay, so there are a couple of ways that you can do this. So we always say to people, when you delete something, it's not really gone, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
you know, when you delete a file, it goes to the recycle bin, unless the name of the file is so long, and it now tells you, do you want to permanently delete it? Okay, so when you now finally delete, you go to the recycle bin, and then you now empty your recycle bin. Okay, so the way to get to that information to see what you did is to do a physical image, right? So if I do logical extraction of your system, I will probably only just see like file structures or something, but a physical, or here the word DD or something, is going to give me a bit by bit copy of your system, right? So it takes a little longer because I'm copying every single thing in there. So once I have that image, so when we say forensics must do something in a forensically sound manner, what that really means is I'm not going to work on your original system. I'm going to image your system. So I'll take the image copy, and that's what I'm going to analyze. And when I image it, it's going to give me what is called a hash value.
Yeah.
So it's going to give me hash value in what's called MD5 and SHA-1. Yeah, those two hashing algorithm, I don't want to seem like I'm speaking too technical, but because you're a technical guy. So those two hashing algorithms, although they have been deprecated to be used in other aspects, we still use them in forensics. So when I come later on and I finish analyzing and I come to court and I say, this is what I took from Irene's computer, and you hash it, it should match the hash value from me originally. And that will show that I didn't mess with that hard drive. So having imaged the hard drive, I will take that hard drive and I want to analyze the hard drive. So usually I have what's called like an EO1 file type. And I will load the EO1 and I will start looking at the image. This is where the hard work of forensics comes in. And I was saying, and this is the analysis portion where AI will help us a lot. Because if you look at statistics around the world, there are a lot of cases that are like dormant because they don't have enough forensic expert. You only have a limited amount of time to analyze it. So I am going, in your case, I'm going to look for the unallocated space to look for deleted files or look for, you know, to see what happened, right? So I have to create a story. So I must have an idea what I'm looking for. So you are accused of maybe planting a virus or doing some things, right? So you know when you get in, you finish doing what you're doing and you delete your file. So I'm trying to find it, right?
Yeah.
But a good forensics guy will obviously, one thing you could do, sorry, a good hacking person, you should disable the login, right?
Yes,
Disable
yes.
the login, do everything you want to do, enable login back, and then delete stuff. But I can still try to find those things that you did to try and tell a story. That's why it is not like CSI, the TV show, the movie, where in 1 hour you solve the problem. Because forensics is a painstaking, time-consuming, detail-oriented job. Yeah, but a good forensic guy with enough patience can find. But sometimes the client is hurrying you up. I need an answer. And you could analyze for a month or a year and you don't find an answer. Sorry, you know that in 2016, I believe, there was a bombing of the US Democratic National Convention Office or something. And the FBI is still investigating because they're still looking at video footage and a lot of stuff to come up with an answer. It takes, and sometimes you're lucky, but many times you got to sit down there with a cup of coffee or water and be looking through everything. That's why you need an experienced forensics guy. And then you cannot use tools that are not certified or accredited. So even AI is coming up with new tools. If I use a tool that is not accredited, unless I'm trying to use it to help me get somewhere to testify in court, the judge is going to ask, did you use XYZ tool and has it been tested?
Okay. Okay, thank you, Doctor. There's one question here from Beniel. Thank you for answering that in very detail. Now I know how to, I'll try to find a way how to cover my tracks again. Okay, from Beniel
Yes.
Samdi. That's just a joke, okay, for everyone. What does the UAE law states for digital legal issues? If I witness some issues, how do I report? MOI is there, or is there anything else above this?
So they want to know the UAE law on reporting of a crime?
Yes, and the digital legal issues as well.
Well, first of all, this is like lawyer answer. We cannot give legal advice because we're not licensed to practice law in UAE. And I think if I recall, if somebody's here, they can correct me. Whether you train as a foreign lawyer, you cannot practice law in UAE. You can be a legal advisor. Only I think Emiratis can practice law. But let me answer it from an academic perspective and then give you the caveat, right? My research shows that UAE has a lot of laws on digital crime, right? They have, in the last presentation I did last year, I had a particular slide that talked about the Ministry of Justice and the law in UAE. But you have, I think that most jurisdictions, you have an obligation to report certain types of crime, like child-related crime. Maybe if you see somebody stealing something in a business, I don't know if you have an obligation to report it, but we always say to everybody, you should report it, right? And then let the law enforcement try to prove the evidence, right? Prove the crime. So you should report it. UAE, I mean, not because I'm here, but I see them on the forefront of a lot of stuff. Innovation, you turn around and you're trying to catch up, right? Because I go to GTEx and I thought I saw something on GTEx, and next thing I know, SNRC, I'm like, oh my God, I need to go and read up on it, right? So I advise you, if you see a crime, please report it, a digital crime, and it's always better to be safe. There is a whistleblower law in UAE, by the way. So whistleblower means if you report something, as I know there's a particular one for DIFC. If you see an employer or a company that's involved in financial crime, you should report it. There's a law on there. You can check it on the internet. And the good thing about some of these whistleblower laws is you get compensated. So in many jurisdictions, an example, if you report a crime that somebody stole maybe 1 million dirhams, and the government recovers or something, you actually can get rewarded a percentage. Like in the US, I think it's like 20% and stuff. So just check. There is some to encourage you to report a crime.
Yes, and also there is another related question here from Tigahana. My phone is being held by someone unknown, and they have the full access to my phone without my authorization. How can I prevent this? How can you help? Please. Doctor, can I just make a comment on this? If it is, in my experience here in Abu Dhabi, in Abu Dhabi Police, there is a cyber crime section, which you can approach, and they will take care of this issue. You just have to report. I just cannot answer though in the other Emirates or in other countries, but there are authorities who are responsible to take care of this. So yeah, Professor Alex, please.
Please report it, and report it to the mobile carrier, because you don't want the person to use the phone to do something inappropriate and they try to blame you. So please report it to the police and report it to the carrier. Because in UAE, to have a mobile phone, you have to register to have an Emirates ID. Even if you're a tourist, you have to use your UID to register the phone, and it's only for a limited period of time. So make sure, because that phone is tied to your Emirates ID. So try and make sure you report it. If you want to ask me about technical things, if you had, like I have an iPhone, right? And it's tied to my iPad. If I leave my iPad behind, I have it set that is called Find My Device. It will tell me I left my iPad. I have a couple of choices. I can push a button and it will do an alarm on my iPad. And if you have it configured, you can actually push the button to remote wipe and wipe everything on your phone. So for like companies, we tell them that all of your mobile devices should have what's called an MDM, mobile device management software, that you can just push a button, and especially you have sensitive stuff on there, wipe off everything in there. And of course, criminals do that too. That's the reason why in forensics, when you take a phone, you put it in a Faraday bag so that nobody can send any signal there to wipe off the phone.
Yeah, and also, of course, any related credit cards, they should notify the credit card company as well. so that there
Yes.
will be no unauthorized transactions. And in social media, they can inform their connections that any unusual messages coming from that person, it's not you. Okay,
Yeah.
so I hope we answered the questions. Sige, Hannah. There's another question from Ray Josh. Are there limitations for the use of AI in digital forensics where human intelligence has an advantage?
I believe so. That's why I said in the other last slide that AI is only there to make your job as a forensics investigator or analyst, to make it more efficient, or to enhance the efficiency. But you still need to look at it. As I just gave the example, just because I see certain things on the evidence does not mean I will reach a conclusion. For example, now, in cyber, as you know, Irene, we have this what's called an impossible geographic rule. In other words, if I use my ATM card here in Dubai, even if I have like most of the Emirates flight to the US is like 2 a.m. or 4 a.m., right? So I know I cannot be in US by 2 a.m. because it's a 14-hour flight, right? So I could possibly, if I use my phone, then if I'm using AI algorithm, you should be able to block the card and say fraud detection. Yeah, but suppose my spouse has it on their Apple, this thing, right? Or it's the Apple Pay. Yeah. So just because it's triggered, I should be, as an individual, I need to sit down and look at it, right? Or just because I see an artifact on a phone. So maybe AI can help me in correlating and bringing all the data, but you still need a human being. So human beings have an advantage. Or just because Irene made the joke about covering her tracks. If I get a transcript of that, AI is going to be okay. Let's check on Irene. But I should be able to at least look at her facial expression and say she was just joking. Hopefully she was just joking. So humans always, so you hear some of us say it's not artificial intelligence, it should be more augmented intelligence. So humans still have an advantage. Now, you're going to lose your job to AI if you're doing like repetitive jobs, obviously. But in general, some jobs are always going to be there, irrespective of the AI.
Yeah, thank you. Doctor, there's another question here from Zamir. Dr. Alex, the tools that you mentioned, like NLP, network analysis, etc., have been there for long years. So the role of AI in this space is to do more in less time, is in a nutshell?
Yes. So what a lot of the current tools are doing, they try to add AI to make it better. But we also have other tools that are coming out in the market to try and compete with these tools. But the problem that some of us have is any new tool must be tested and attested and be acceptable in a court of law, because you're going to probably present the evidence in a court of law, and you cannot just, I couldn't just invent a tool today and you use it. So the whole idea is to have AI in the current tools to make it easier, or after I have the evidence, let AI help me in doing the volume analysis. So yes, some of these tools are already in existence, but AI, because remember I said AI has been with us for more than 20 years. It just today, it seems like to be a buzzword. Everybody's so talking about AI, right?
Yeah. There's also one here, by the way. Thank you, Chamil, for sharing this. In the UAE, you can report e-crime using the link below, which I also put in the chat. Please. Anonymous attendee, how is tracking done for origin of forwarded messages on social media, Doctor?
Ask it again. How is what?
How is the tracking done for forwarded messages? So you want to track the sender, original sender of, let's say, a malicious message or a fake message.
Yes. So let's say they send it from their computer, right? I should be able to see the network traffic and how they sent it, right? Like you send me a file. So do I have a lot of questions? Can I use a quick demo? Or no? You have more questions?
Yeah, okay. Yes. Yes, this will be the last question. And for the attendees, please, we can have, after this question, I apologize for the other questions that cannot be asked. Dr. Alex will do a demo of digital forensics. So yes, go ahead, Doctor.
So to answer the question, for example, now, if I'm sending something to you, I didn't just send it out of the blue, right? There's a way to send it. So if I send it with, I'm using like, say, a website or something, and it's HTTP and I see it, I can see it in clear text, right? If it's like HTTPS, then it's encrypted. I need to now have another tool to try and decrypt it, right? Because that is a HTTPS means secure socket layer, right? And if it's a WhatsApp, it might be difficult, but in most other social media platforms, you can track the message. Of course, law enforcement has the ability to subpoena those records, right? To see what transpired.
Okay.
Right? So let me just do two quick demo on autopsy and FTK imager and show you what we do in the, I hate to use the word the real world, okay? So I'm going to share can I share my screen?
Yes,
right?
Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay, so I'm just going to share, let's see, let me open it first so that it will allow me to go. Otherwise you'll be seeing something. So a major tool that we use is access data FTK imager, right? So everybody sees my screen in here, right? So let's say I come in and I have access to your laptop, or I get into a crime scene, right? And I need to do some forensics. I can either use an USB, but I will come over here and I'm going to click and I'm going to say, I see my options in here. So I want to create a disk image. So if I wasn't interested in hard drive, I wanted to look at what's called your volatile memory, that what's running in your process in your RAM. I would do what is called a RAM capture. You can see one of the options in here, but let's do a disk image here. So I hit a disk image and it's going to ask me a couple of questions in here. So you see, select the evidence type, right? So if I want to do a physical drive, this is when I say it takes a long time. And it's because it's doing a 0 and 1. But let's say I want to do the contents of a folder because of time. I'm going to do contents of a folder and I'm going to do next, right? It gives me a warning message and says to me, I'm creating a logical image of the contents of a folder. I'm only going to have logical files, right? I'm not going to have metadata. Metadata is data about data about file, which would be when it was created, who created it, like in the case of a picture. That's what I mean, right? So a logical image will not give me that, but I'm just using this for demo. And also, it will not allow me to see my deleted files, or things in unallocated space. A long lecture to explain the difference over that, right? Although logical images can be examined, FTK image to a viewer is telling me that only this kind of image are viewer. So let me just say, yes, I want to go. And it's going to ask me, what do I want to image now? So I want to image, I put a folder in here, scroll down under my drive. I'm going to just go to my D drive. On my D drive, and I see something in here called Files for Forensic Demo. I just click that and I hit OK. And I just hit finish. So what I do here is going to ask me the image destination, where I'm going to store what I'm going to. So I'm going to hit here. I'm going to, here, make sure this is checked. So verify image after they are created. I will explain that when I do it real quickly. So I'm going to hit add, and I'm going to put, if I was investigating, I could call this PMI UAE demo. The rest you can leave. If I want to put a name in here, I can put, I'm the examiner. I can say, Mr. Alex, whatever. Right? But you see all this information in a minute, and then notes or evidence number, and I hit next. So if you come to a scene of a crime, you're going to probably have an evidence number, you tag the information, and you want to do that. So image destination folder, let's put it, in this case, because I'm using only folder, I can just put it in the same place that I got it. So let me put it in my D drive again, but usually I'll put it in an external drive. So it's okay to put it right here. And I'm going to give it a call. I'm going to call it a name, call it Alex demo. And then here, don't worry about this image fragment size or AD. But if I hit next, I'm going to hit start. Okay, and it's done because it's a folder. But if you see on here on my screen, you're going to see the MD5 and the SHA-1 hash that I mentioned. The significance here is this computed hash and of both the SHA-1, which is just an algorithm, right? They should match. If I gave that same file to somebody else, even if it's an opponent, and they hash that value, you should be able to do it. So I go here and I'm done, right? But I can check my image summary. Everything I entered should be there. I said examiner is Professor Alex, PMI demo, and I'm using ADX 7.1, and it says created by access data version. This is important because if I go to court of law, they're going to ask me, what did you use to image the file? And I say, I used access data FTK that has been proven, right? Or I can also use on my screen, I have what's called autopsy, which time would not permit us, right? But Irene will keep me honest. So now, so image has been created successfully. So if I want here, I want to examine the image. I will come over here and I'm going to do what's called add the evidence item. So I'm going to add evidence item. And what did I do? I know that was if I go to image file, I say, okay, let me search. I browse. I'm going to my D folder, right? So you see, it has A01. If I had done a physical image, you will have what's called an E01 extension, all right? But here, just for purpose of this demo, let's say I'm going to look at the file. I mean, I'm going to add the file. But let's come back again. I want to finish, and it's going to put the file in here, all right? But maybe I want to go and see my text message, my text file, because whenever I image, it creates an image and a text file. So here, I'm going to go and I'm going to look. So I'm going to click this plus sign in here, and I want to look at the files that I analyze, right? So it tells me, everything I analyze in here. So if I picture the conference, I highlight this one, right? So picture the conference, but I can do more with this. I can say, well, maybe my name in here, I do pictures in here, instructions, and I can decide what I want to do with it, right? But more importantly, I've carved out what I needed to do, and I can do more analysis. Because I did an image, it's easier to see it like this. But if it wasn't an image, I'll have to right click on it and then go and do what is called, I'm going to have to now go and, okay, I've stopped my screen sharing. Let's hold on, make sure, okay. So, any question? That was a short demo of how we can do it. Are we finishing at 8? All right, so I believe I've shown you how you can do it. But so most of the forensic tools will enable me to write a report based on what I just did. So I should be able to now say, this is what I saw, and this is the part. But if I did it normally, I'll have to go through in depth. I will be able to see on the left side the deleted files, and I can now carve them out and be able to look for what the person deleted or what Irene was trying to hide in a track, right? But in after that, I can also use, I said, Wireshark to look at the network traffic to see what she did. And I can see maybe what site she went to. And it will tell me when she went to the site and what she was looking at. And I can say, okay, this is what she looked at. Right? And I can look at the browser history also. That's why you want to get a physical image. It will tell me which website that she visited. The browser, even if she was deleted, I can recreate it and see what she did.
Okay, but what if, Doctor, I remove a hard disk and put it inside the microwave? Will the data still be subject or can still be read by the digital forensic tools?
Okay, so let's answer it this way. So if it's a hard disk drive, so the hard disk drive has moving parts, which we call platters, right? So if somebody takes it and goes and puts it in a microwave, puts it in what's called a degausser to demagnetize it, it might be difficult. Or put a hammer and drill holes in there, right? But there are also more sophisticated tools that you can try to reconstruct it. But just understand that if the person is going through all that trouble to try and destroy the evidence, you might not be able to find it, right? As opposed to SSD, solid state drive that doesn't have those moving parts, you know? But forensic is only as good as what you can retrieve and be able to take your time to analyze it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. And also thank you for giving us a demonstration of how you're doing the forensics basically, and definitely there are other factors that are to be considered when using the AI, whether it is in digital forensics or in our day-to-day life. Again, AI is there, it's already a part of our life. It's either we do it for a good reason or the other way, but I hope we use it for the good purpose. Yeah? Do you have any last word, Dr. Alex, before I close the webinar?
All I'm just going to tell you is that please try and get current on the different technologies out there. AI is changing the world, both for project managers and whatever your field is. You have to, as a project manager, you need to stay current and retool yourself. You have to continuously learn. Because if somebody comes and says, you want us to supervise an AI project, so please take courses, certified AI investigator, AI technician. Just stay current. Don't rest on your laurels, because the world is changing and project management is changing, just like forensics is changing. But remember, forensics investigation is really a project, just like any other project in project management, with a beginning and an end, with a time, scope, and a cost constraint. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Alex, for gracing our webinar again. Indeed, a very interesting topic and very engaging attendees too. This webinar will be published at the PMI UAE chapter's YouTube channel in 2 to 3 weeks. So those who are asking how to see the presentation, you can check it at our UAE chapter's YouTube channel, please. I hope we can invite you again, Doctor, in our future webinars. And to our attendees, as we close this webinar tonight, I would like to thank you for all of your participation. As always, the success of every PMI UAE chapter event, whether virtual or face-to-face, is through the collaboration of all volunteering teams. This includes our colleagues from membership, outreach, volunteering, finance, and governance. Until our next webinar, together with my events colleague here in the camera, Amir Ali, and on behalf of our Director of Events, Bhavin Lad, this is Irene Corpus, wishing you all a pleasant evening. Good night.